Hello, classmates. This is Jason Christensen yet again. An apology for the mess in my background or any noise that you may hear at this late at night. It's been a hectic week, and with us being in the middle of a complete remodel of our home. But for this week's discussion, I decided to focus on the Scopes trial from a Mormon perspective. Yes, I would be bringing in the modernist perspective as well as the fundamentalist perspective as well. When Alexis de Tocqueville traveled through America, he remarked that America is great because it is good. This observation reflects his views on American churches and the fundamental duty of Americans to God. The scriptures also teach us that there is an opposition of all things, indicating that the forces of darkness are always present in the ongoing struggle between good and evil, and between freedom and tyranny. In matters of religion, this concept of opposition is indeed a significant doctrine. Allow us to briefly examine the fundamentalist modernist perspective, as well as the Scopes trial from around 1900 to approximately 1950s as an example of this fact, as well as the Scopes trial. The Scopes trial, commonly known as the Monkey Trial, was an international court case centered on the conflict between faith and the concept of evolution. I would personally consider it a direct assault on America as a whole. For centuries before the establishment of this nation, the idea of true, unadulterated religious liberty was non existent. One can only imagine the lengths to which satanic influences would go to prevent this nation from forming and undermining this Christian country. One such effort is the false belief in Darwinism, which is indeed linked to communist ideology. Darwin, Marx, and Engels were acquaintances, but what is the actual scientific perspective on Darwinism? Simply put, evolution is based on the law of transformation, which possesses that matter consists of a unity of opposites that creates conflict, leading to self energization. This implies that matter does not require assistance from an unknown God to create life. In fact, Engels believed that the last vestige of a creator external to the world is obliterated. This discussion leads us to the nature of the Scopes trial and the intent behind the state law passed by Tennessee, which aimed to counter the false belief in evolution by making it illegal to deny the creation story as taught in the Bible. The key terms here are deny and the teaching of the Bible. Importantly, the law did not mandate the teaching of the Bible itself, allowing Scopes the opportunity to teach the principles of biology while omitting any unproven theories of evolution. One might wonder why such a prominent attorney as Clarence Darrow did not emphasize this crucial distinction, or why, as a Christian, he focused solely on the literal words of the Bible itself rather than certain symbolic narratives. For instance, the story of Jonah being swallowed up by a whale can be interpreted as a literal event, but interpreted not as a literal event, but as a metaphor for being engulfed by the falsehoods of the current world, often referred to as Babylon. As Christians, we are engulfed to stand independently with God against the ever changing evils of this fallen and sinful world, or in other terms, Babylon. On the other side of the trial, while Jennings may have been selectively correct on the context of the case, he argued for the proper definition of the separation of church church and state. He listed major religions and other Christian scriptures, such as the Book of Mormon, and equated evolution with scientific facts alongside the Copernican theory. He contended that if the state mandates the teaching of biology, it must also prohibit the false teaching of that subject. It is unclear whether Jennings intentionally omitted this quote from Thomas Jefferson or was simply unaware of it, particularly regarding the legislation of morals based on the Bible. Jefferson stated the declaration that religious faith shall be unpublished does not give impunity to criminal acts. The interests of society require the observation of those moral precepts only in which all religions agree. For, for all forbid us to murder, steal, plunder, or bear false witness, and that we should not intermarry with the particular dogmas in which all religions differ, and which are unconnected with morality. We agree on the obligation of the moral precepts of Jesus, and nowhere will they be found different in the greater purity than in his discourses. Letter to James Madison in 1809, proving that we are supposed, as a Christian nation, are supposed to use the Bible to make moral codes of law, meaning the state of Tennessee was absolutely in the correct mindset when they tried to prohibit the teaching of the false and unproven doctrine of evolution. This not only demonstrates to humanists, pro-Darwinists, that the government can indeed pass biblical laws such as the one enacted in Tennessee, but it also shows that there is a potential for common ground between fundamentalist and modernist perspectives, concepts such as the evolving interpretations of the Bible. Since the time of the ancient Pharisees, particularly during the Dark Ages under the Catholic Church, or the selective inclusion of certain books in the Bible during the Council of Nicaea, illustrate this. Additionally, there is a need to reject certain false humanist beliefs, such as Darwinism, or evolution, abortion, socialism, and homosexuality. In defense of Christianity and America's faith, by not admitting common ground from both sides, only proves that both the popular fundamentalist beliefs fall short of fundamentalism itself, as well as the modernist, clear atheist, socialist, and anti-American agendas, of which you could see in the Utah LDS Church that I will get that I will end up closing with. In conclusion, the fundamentalist modernist debates, including the Scopes trial itself, involved Christianity as a whole. For instance, the Utah LDS Church experienced its own version of the Scopes trial in 1911, which led to the termination of selected professors at Brigham Young University and the University of Utah, as well as eventual promotion of the false ideology of evolution. Much like the rest of the whole education system, the promotion of evolution. Interesting enough, Dallin H. Oaks, a former president of Brigham Young University years ago, is now in the first presidency of the LDS Church. Was very instrumental in this change at Brigham Young University. On the positive note, there is hope for reversing the negative impact of the monkey trial by initiating another lawsuit against the teachings of evolution, citing the points made here. Additionally, this effort could relate to another mandated course from the state, one that is inherently impossible to separate from the belief in God and his influences, such as the subject of history. But at the same time, we also have to be careful too, because the atheist within the public education system has already indirectly censored the mentioning of God from history, myself being a history and experienced such persecution as well.